Okay, hey everybody, this is Grace, and for some reason it's starting to rain. It wasn't supposed to rain today. Today is April 6th. It's a Sunday. It's 11:30. Feels like it's morning. It really does. But anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about the rescue dog. I had made some videos and basically didn't put them up about the latest rescue dog. Some of the things I'm figuring out about her is that she did have owners, of course. She didn't have a chip. She wasn't chipped. She didn't have any anything to say who she was or anything like that. And my best guess is the person who rescued her, I guess he was out with some friends. He's a young man, a neighbor's son, and I guess he was out with his friends at the lake. That's what we heard, the lake. And this dog was there, and his thought was kind of dark, that somebody threw the dog in the lake. Now, why he wouldn't have seen somebody throw it in the lake because the dog was still wet, I don't know. The story wasn't making all that much sense, and we just say whatever. But she's probably 9 months, somewhere around there. And I finally figured out the name that I could not think of, because I kept thinking it's a pit bull mixed with this and that. Even said, German Shepherd. I only guessed who was Lab and German Shepherd. And I said, no, it's this dog. And I could not remember the name of it. But let me get it right. Let's see if I get it right. Cane Corso. I'm fairly certain that's what she is, but she may be mixed. She hasn't grown into an adult yet, so I don't know. But yeah, I'm fairly certain about that one. I said that about the German Shepherd mix, but no, anyway. And she obviously took a while, about, it's not even a week yet, is it? But she apparently was with a couple. First I was thinking one person, but then she kept acting up one day, and I clapped my hands, and she stopped. It's a long story, but anyway, let's see, what was I gonna say? She also was in an apartment. She was not in a house. At first I was thinking maybe a house of an elderly person or something like that, along that line, because she didn't understand doggy doors. I actually watched her when she finally figured it out, and we showed her this kind of thing. Nope, she wasn't going for it. The door needed to be open for her. No, so I didn't open it for her, and I watched her as she figured it out, because she wanted to go out, because one of our other dogs was out there, and she really follows him around. And she wanted so bad to go out, so she figured it out. But she also another thing I told Adam, we had some old pads, for we had our other dog when we first got him, both of them, and I said, put them out. She'll use those, because she was raised in an apartment, and she kept going anywhere, just anywhere. She wouldn't go outside, so that worked. But she's still only doing it in the house. So she was in an apartment. And the reason I'm saying this is because the people, the person who rescued her, I guess all of them decided they would go house to house and try to, all the houses around there, wherever the lake was, thinking it was near here. And they would ask people if they lost a dog. And then they sent out notices and all this kind of different stuff, and nobody had ever responded. So, but I'm thinking it's because she was in an apartment. And we shall see about all that. But, I kept saying, telling Adam, just see her, because he was pretty ticked off at first. Because when he started finding out that she would only poo in the house and she pees on the floor, and he got her to go outside to pee, but she won't poo outside. So he was pretty ticked off at first. But I have mentioned that I think that, well, I know that I've known him over 40 years. He's never had a hobby. And he started taking up these rescue, this is be our third. And as kind of as a hobby, he likes training them. And I didn't say that on the video. I mentioned something about it. I said that he likes buying them stuff, and he does. He likes buying stuff for the dogs. And, it's from what they eat, different kinds of things, plus the snacks and stuff like that. And, I don't know what these other things are called. I've never seen them before, but we just call them sticks. They're, they do them pork, beef, and chicken. And they're just long, probably like 6 feet long, 5 feet long sticks. They look like sticks. And the inside kind of looks like cotton candy, but it's not that soft. So anyway, that, and he likes to teach them. He likes to train them, retrain them, socialize them, get them to stop doing stuff like peeing on the floor. It's like, okay. But I think that I told him before, I said, I think this is your hobby. Because he never had one, and I said, before you retire, you really need to figure out what is going to be your hobby. Can you imagine if he didn't have a hobby and retired? That whole thing about homemakers, how they have to deal with somebody who's retired, their spouse or whatever, and deal with somebody who retires. It was a stereotype back then. It was male, the bread winner, and the female, the homemaker, that she had to suffer. Yeah. Well, I'm glad he has a hobby. Of course he cares about him, because he kept saying, I don't know, I don't want this dog. It's just so much trouble, and I'm too old for all this trouble. I'm thinking, okay, and that's what I would say. I would say, okay, to consider her a foster. He didn't respond real quickly and say, yeah. No, he knew he was going to keep her. I just kept saying, okay, whatever you want to do. That kind of looks like an eagle. Really. There comes another one. Maybe it's just a big crow. I know they like to go to that house over there. Oh, there was that one day that I was fighting the crows. I wasn't fighting them. I was giving them a major talking to. It's probably those two. Because they're real big, and they were picking on a squirrel. Probably the squirrel was after their eggs or something, but I went over there. I was there, and I saw that, and I said, "You stop." Yeah. Anyway, I think that's enough. But yeah, I think we're going to wind up keeping her. Our other dog is in the hospital. Our other dog he's being watched. Our pit bull. He got bronchitis a month ago. Well, when Adam went with his brother on vacation, and then the next day was when I wound up in the hospital with congestive heart failure. Yeah. But they went on a kind of vacation. They went to see their family in Texas. His brother had come from California, but he had been in Florida to do some work on the house, the rent property. Somebody moved out. And on his way back, he said, instead of going home first, he wanted to go meet. He wanted to go visit all their family in Texas. So they did that. And like I said, next day I was in the hospital ER diagnosed with, they just called it, cardiologist called it heart failure. But he said it was my warning. And so did the cardiologist I followed up with to just called it heart failure and said, this is your warning. He said, don't get all freaked out about it. Both of them said basically the same thing. You know, it's just a warning. You have to learn. You know, and I guess they were talking about just the sodium count. Anyway, I'm going through all that again. But, why was I going through all that again? I'm telling you, yesterday, by the way, I was not well. I was not well at all. And apparently that's another thing I have to watch, is really watch what I eat. Because my body right now is kind of delicate, which is, I don't know. I'm telling you, when I turned 59 and I'm 61 now, it seemed like everything started changing. And even the whole thing of, you know, when I was young and dumb, really, I lived in Florida a couple of times. You know, I'm from Texas, but I moved to Florida a couple of times. And each time I would see, you know, these people, probably my age now and older, and it would be 70 degrees and they'd have on sweaters or coats. And I would say, why did they do that? 70 degrees, you know? And I was young and dumb. Seriously, because now at 61, I'm wearing cardigans. So even in when the temperature outside is in the 80s, almost 90. Actually, we did already have 190 at 90, so I think it was 93 actually. Still wearing them. Yeah, I went through that. It was like, you know, when you're younger and you go through those growing pains, literally some point you have pains. This one was growing old pains, maybe. But yeah, it was end of December, early January. I kept having the worst, awful feelings in my body, from my jaw, the bottom part of my, you know, where my gums are, my bottom gums, all the way down to my waist and all the way to my fingertips. Okay, and it was just be awful, awful, not pains, but ached. And the last time, it wasn't, I didn't know it was going to be the last time, but I tested my body temperature. It was 94.4 or 94.0. And I started to put on a sweater. We always called them sweaters. And pretty much have had to wear a sweater since then. You know, one sweater or another. Luckily, I have three. They're the same. They call them cardigan. Now I'm not going to be able to say it. But I go into these places to, you know, like doctor's offices, and that's the ones that say, "Oh, I just love your cardigan." Is it cardigan? I had it down, and now I can't remember. I'm kind of rambling, aren't I? But yeah, like I said, it was like, hello, this is going to be the new you now. The new you can't go around without something, you know, wearing, you know, I tried hoodies last year, but I hadn't had those pains yet. But I noticed I wanted to wear hoodies. I don't like them how they choke me. I feel like they choke me. But, so I started wearing these. Like I said, it wasn't all that cold so much until December. And I told my doctor, I said, maybe it was hypothermia sitting in my home. Maybe it was, but yeah, really, like I just said, it's probably growing old pains. So, anyway. Uh-oh. Okay, yeah, my alarm went off. I gotta go home. Take my medication. So I'm going to wrap this up, and I'll talk to y'all in another video. Bye.